Deafrowe with Deafrowe Closed Caption, and I'm back again with a new review, the first review of 2024. And I thought I would start it off with something 2024. So we have the movie for today's review, but before I get to that, hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell so you know when I put stuff out there. And today's movie is A Boy and His Dog, 1975. But it's a post-apocalyptic wasteland of 2024. After World War III and World War IV, we find ourselves following a character named, Vic and Blood. Vic is the boy, Blood is the dog. Don Johnson plays Vic. Tim McIntyre voices the voice of Blood. And through elements of nuclear, fallout and all this other stuff, they somehow have a psychic connection where they can talk to each other in that way. And so Vic very much depends on Blood to find food and women. And then, of course, later on in the movie, we see a Susan Benton playing Quilla June Holmes and a Jason Robards playing Lou Craddock. So let's get started with a review of A Boy and His Dog, 1975. Alright, the year is 2024, and everything is shit. As you can see here, everything is buried because of all the nuclear bombing. The way they lay this out in this movie is everything was covered basically, and you have to dig holes in the middle of this desert-like area to get down to the levels below, where the houses and buildings and stores and everything else lay to waste underneath all this desert. Actually, a kind of cool concept, in my opinion. Anyway, as we go further on, you see A Boy and His Dog. You see all these holes where different people had dug to find food and that kind of stuff in these old houses. Anyway, they're sitting here arguing about where they're going to go. Blood, the dog, is trying to convince them, hey, we need to go to the over the hills and far away place to survive. We can't survive out in this desert for too much longer, because unless you have the manpower to dig these holes and find these areas to cultivate, you're not going to last very long. Anyway, and the dog is Blood is trying to convince them to go to the place that's over the hill and far away, where people actually grow food, have crops and all that kind of stuff, instead of just scavenging like they've been doing. Anyway, like this, for example, this guy has a bunch of slaves attached to his little vehicle, and he has them digging a hole trying to find some food in a house. Let's see. Vic is just waiting it out. He's going to try to steal some, and that's what he does. He ends up stealing some of their food that they brought up out of the hole. He killed that one dude that's, got blood in his mouth right there. Anyway, so there you go. So, throughout this whole thing, Vic is talking about getting up with a woman, because he ain't had it in a while. And Blood, he keeps asking Blood to sniff him out, because Blood has extrasensory, more so than your normal dog, because of all the chemical changes in the atmosphere. He can sense where a woman is nearby and that kind of thing. So that night, after stealing the food, they decide to go see a movie at this place where they were showing a snuff film, pretty much. And they, pay with a can of beans and a can of, I want to say, he calls it a can of peaches, but it's something else, but the guy can't read, so he doesn't, he just kind of has to take his word for it. It's actually a can of beets. And they get in, of course. And they're watching the movie, and Blood is letting him know that he smells a woman nearby. And by the way, you see this little thing right here. Yeah, they're watching like a snuff film or whatever. So Blood's trying to let him know where the woman is. He figures out where the woman is, follows her down into this hole, which ends up being like an old factory of some sort that's been covered over. And yeah, there she is. And like he tries to take her hostage or whatever. But come to find out, this was all part of Quilla June Holmes' plan to get him to save her and then try to make him fall in love with her. So he does all these things to save her from all these other bandits, because these bandits are going to essentially just end up raping and killing her. So he fends them all off, and then in thanks for that, they pretty much get it on afterwards several times. And the dog's like, I'm tired of pretending I'm asleep. Let's get the hell out of here. But instead of that, she knocks him over the head and escapes. And she leaves like a card behind. And Blood is right in thinking that it's all set up. She left that card behind so he would come down to the below. And the below is a group of people that have survived underground for a long period of time in a certain way. And you find out they're not all what they're all cracked up to be. So he gets the card and he finds the door that this card works on. The access key is basically what the card is. And he finds the stairwell is like a silo going down into this area. And this dude right here is like trying to clean him up or whatever. Come to find out, he's like an android of some sort. And all these people down below have this weird ass makeup on for some reason. They don't really explain what all the makeup is for. I'm not sure what that's all about. As you can see, they're having like this whole. They're trying to make it seem like they continued on with life, like nothing changed. Like, oh, we're having parades and all this other stuff. Anyway, like that big dude that's holding them right there, dresses them up the same way, and then escorts them around the place. Anyway, yeah, so that dude to the right there in the overalls is an android, by the way. You don't find that out till later, but, there's only one. I mean, he doesn't say anything in the whole thing. Anyway. And then he brings up these two older people that did something they wasn't supposed to do. And so, the main guy, Lou Craddock, which is played by Jason Robards, is like here he is right here. He's like the president, and he has these two other people with him. Then all three of them have to agree on something before something is to happen. And they all agree that these two older people have to be sent to the farm. And at first you don't know what that is, and you think, oh, they're just going to go make them work on a farm or something like that. And then you find out later that ain't exactly what it is. And you wonder how they're keeping crops and everything. They're planting crops and everything in this underground place and doing that kind of stuff. Come to find out. And then, of course, you see Quilla Jones, which is played by Susan Benton again. The whole idea was for her to lure Vic down into this underworld because they want to use Vic as a way to enter new blood into the population in the below. So they basically, they bring him up to the stage and they're like, okay, we want you to get up with some of our girls, but Vic is thinking, oh yeah, I get to have sex with all these girls because they wanna introduce new blood to the population or whatever. And then that's not what happens at all. That's a pretty good picture here. So Vic is thinking he's got something good going on here, and then all of a sudden, nope, they hooked him up to a milking machine, if you get my drift. And it's so weird how they do this. Let's see if I can get a good shot of this. So basically, yeah, they got him hooked up to this milking machine, and then they bring in these girls, and then pretend. Well, I don't say pretend, but they marry these girls one at a time to Vic. Let's see if I can get a good shot of it. So to make it legitimate. It's so weird. So like 30 girls are there going to get married to him, and then they're going to have his baby, so they can add more to the bloodlines. So you got one leaving in her dress with her mom and dad, and of course they got all those names up on the chalkboard of all the girls that he's going to impregnate. Pretty much is nuts. Anyway, so that's what's going on here. And what's her name? Quilla June Holmes was supposed to be given a seat on the board or whatever with those three, and they wouldn't give it to her. So now she's pissed off. She did everything she was told to do to get Vic down there and get them milking his juice or whatever. And now they don't want to give her spot, so she comes in as a bride and unleashes, gets everything off of him, everything like that. But she was pretty much using him as a way to gain power in the below, and they didn't want to give her the power, so she's like, well shit, I'm just going to rebel against them now. And she unleashes them or unties them and everything, and then they try to escape. And during the escape, they had help from a few of the guys down there. And then that's when Jason Robards' character, Lou Craddock, they just set up a little table in the middle of nowhere on a field. And they're being recorded on this big... everything he says is being put out by like a PA, a public announcement system. And this is where he found out what it means to go to the farm. Is because... when the robot dude or android dude comes after those other guys, whatever, you see right here, the farm immediately. And so what that means is you become part of the farm. You're basically manure. You are killed. So yeah. To go work on the farm, in their respect, is to become one with the farm. And so they're trying to get the hell away from there, obviously. And that's when Vic starts shooting at that little, and then that's where you figure out he's an android, and that's the reason he had so much strength, and it took shooting at him at least 10 times to bring him down too. And then at the end of that, Lou Craddock, Jason Robards' character's like, yeah, tell him we got to get another mic out of storage, and make sure that he doesn't have that stupid smile on his face this time, or another Michael out of storage. It's crazy. It's like, and as you can see, she's like holding a book in her hand, and it's just a book of names. And basically, every time they say someone goes to the farm, that robot or whatever would just go to that person, kill him, and take off with them. You didn't know that at first at the beginning because he kind of just dragged him off stage, but he was dragging him off to kill him. So anybody that doesn't do anything they want you to do, these three, they just kill them off, and you become part of the farm. Now they make their way back up, right? They finally escape. and they're back up at the door that he used to get in, and he's looking for blood because he left blood up there, and he regrets leaving blood up there. And he finds blood behind the door on the other side of the door. He'd been waiting for him the whole time. And Quilla June Holmes, which has taken advantage of him this entire time, he's like, okay, we're gonna live up top, but we need to get out of here quick, and all this other stuff. And she's like, I love you, come on. When she really doesn't. She's just trying to use him again, pretty much, because you find out while they were below, since she didn't get what she wanted down there, she's just kind of trying to get what she wants up here. You know what I mean? Control. But he decides he loves his dog more than he loves her, and pretty much ends up feeding her to the dog. Cannibalism at the end of a post-apocalyptic movie of 2024. Of course. Can't go without cannibalism in a post-apocalyptic movie. So, the dog's dying of starvation, so he decides he kills her. They don't show this, obviously. But the dog's kind of like making jokes about it towards the end. Like, it's like, dog's like, I don't know if I loved her. Dog was saying something like, I loved her more than you loved her. Especially the way she tastes, crazy stuff. So yeah, he brings his dog from the brink of starvation with killing Quilla June Holmes and feeding her to the dog. And the movie ends with a song about the boy and his dog, and the end. Such a crazy ass movie. I recommend watching it for sure. It does have some nudity in it. I skipped over those parts in this, but I haven't seen anything like it since, with the whole underground thing and all this stuff. And pretty cool movie from 1975 in my opinion, starring Don Johnson and Jason Robards, Susan Benton, and Tim McIntyre as the voice of Blood. And that's my review of A Boy and His Dog. Deafrowe, out.